Hello, everyone that's watching this stream so far. Just give me one moment. We're going to get started. I'm just going to share the link in a few places so that way we can get some other people joining us and we can have some fun. So just give me one moment and we will have some fun here. So how's everyone doing today? Put your answer in the chat. Let's see how everyone's doing, if everyone's having a good day so far. Anything interesting happen? Okay, one moment. Almost done. Okay. Let's see. All right. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to get rid of this slideshow of season 3 and whatnot. So if you guys were enjoying that, I'm sorry, but we're going to move on to some other stuff. So that way we can to the heart of the live stream. So just give me 1 second. Oops, I forgot to preload that. Oh well. Okay. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. So we are back with the Q&A live streams. So what's been going on? So I mean, these have been going on for quite a while. I started doing these in December, and here we are, almost April. So basically, I'm hoping that by the end of this week, I'll actually finish all of them. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to do another one and then another one after that and whatnot. So that way we can get as much done as possible. Oh, there's some people in the chat saying that they cannot hear me. Let's see. I don't know what's going on with that. Microphone's fine. Everything seems fine. I'm guessing it's the internet. Oh, that's why. Okay, can you guys hear me? Let's see. Okay, looks like you guys can hear me, so we're gonna just keep going. So yeah, basically we're on part 12. There's not much more to go through. We've got the rest of this section with the Thomas Creator Collective, and then we're gonna move over to the toys, which is the last big section. And then I'm going to actually go back and cover all the questions that you guys have left in the comments of my previous Q&A live streams. So not the live stream like chats, but the actual comment section. So if there's a question that you have that I've not yet answered and you've been watching through these, go put your question in the comments and I'll try and answer it in one last live stream so that we kind of cover everything, and that way I'm caught up entirely on Q&A questions. So yeah, if you guys have those, put them down there and that'll be great. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing the Thomas Creator Collective. I was a part of the Thomas Creator Collective from December 2015 until August of 2017. Almost, I think the last project that I worked on actually aired in November of 2017. So I was a part of the Creator Collective for about 18 months. I did a lot of work on it. I feel like I was kind of one of the more prominent members. Like I was assigned a lot of tasks to film, so a lot of my stuff was seen a lot. And yeah, so I've got a lot of experience working on it. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of things that went on with it, and so I'm just going to answer these questions that you guys have about what it was like to work for Mattel and to work in the Thomas Creator Collective. All right. Jet the Hawk 1994 and TWR Productions 4 asked, "What's it like being in the TCC?" Um, it's got its pros and cons for sure. It's fun in a lot of ways. Well, I should say this in past tense. It was fun being a part of this big team that like all were passionate about Thomas. It was a lot of fun working with those people. It was stressful at times too, because usually what my process was as a filmer basically was I would have to wait for people like Trent or Matt to write the scripts for the scripts to get approved through the various channels and higher ups and whatnot. And then once the script was approved, it would get sent to me, and I would be given specific scenes and assignments. It'd be really cool if I could show you guys what the scripts look like, but due to copyright reasons, I can't. And yeah, anyways, so yeah, I would be given a script, and my name would be next to certain scenes, and then I would be tasked with filming those. Sometimes it just kind of depended on what the episode was. I would be given sometimes like multiple scenes on one set, and so then I'd film all those scenes. Sometimes I'd be given tons of scenes that were all on different sets, and I'd have to build each individual one. More in the beginning, there was a lot of like randomness in the sets. That it was more assignments were given more out of like the skill level and kind of like how they could capture that particular scene. And so like there were some people were filming on the same set, like same like Tidmouth Sheds or a specific location, but because they needed different people to handle the different action that was taking place or covering the various things that happened in the script. So yeah, but over time it got better, so that way I wasn't building 5 various sets for one episode or whatnot, and so it was more condensed. And yeah, I enjoyed it more towards the end when I was able to film more productively and be able to like build one set, take care of a lot of stuff, and not have to like build multiple ones that only appear for a short period of time. So then after I film my scenes, that usually I'll read through the script usually once or a couple times beforehand, get an idea. Then I take the time to actually build the set and make sure it fits the specifications of what the script actually says. And then after I've built the set, then I go through and I just read straight through the script and I film everything that takes place as it happens. When I'm doing my own series and stuff, I actually like write out the shots that I need. But the collective, just because it's so action packed, there's a lot going on with it and whatnot. Like I would have to read through the script every single time, so that way I knew exactly like what I'm supposed to be visualizing for the audience. And so yeah, so I would then go through. I would film, everything that took place on that scene. Usually, I try and take care of everything that took place on that set. Then if I had more sets I need to build, I would take down that set, build the next one, film everything on that. Then afterwards, I would take all the footage, upload it to my computer, and then I would actually go through and create some temporary audio for each of the um, like scenes that I had, and then I would take the footage in, delete all the audio, and then just edit the kind of a temporary placeholder so that way the scene was kind of roughly cut together. Then I would take that and upload it to YouTube um, privately, and then share that link with the people who would then be using it, either the animators, the editors, whoever was actually like putting the whole thing together. Um, and so, yeah, initially back in like the early days of the collective, I was doing a lot of the I was doing all the animation for my scenes on my own. Eventually, they were able to hire animators, and then they kind of took over, and I would just do the filming part, which is a lot easier for me. But then once I send it off, then they take care of everything, and then I get to see the finished product. Um, and so it's fun. Like usually, I mean, oftentimes, like I would read through the script very like I just kind of skim over it the first time, except for like when it came to my scenes, then I would like read them in depth. And so then it was fun when the actual collective episode came out because I vaguely remembered what the other scenes were about, but it was kind of cool seeing how my piece fit into the whole puzzle of how the episode came together and whatnot. So that was pretty fun every week to see that come together. And usually, there were times where I would be submitting the footage on like Monday, and the video would be coming out that Friday. So like sometimes it was crazy deadlines. Other times, like I was given enough time that I was able to submit it like a week or two in advance, and then it would come out later. So yeah, but that was kind of like the overall process. Obviously, there were other things that went on with dealing with like management stuff and like Skyping various people to discuss scenes, making sure that there was consistency across the various scenes. Because if you're having like four different people filming like the same, like what would be a continuous subplot of the story, you got to make sure that the trains are correct, they're on the right tracks, that like everything is blocked out properly, so that way there's consistency. Because otherwise, it would be very confusing to the audience. So there was a lot of that. That was mostly the communication that I would deal with. But for the most part, I felt like my work filming was pretty straightforward. I mean, it was difficult at times because some of the scenes would be very like intense with all the action stuff and trying to capture that. And I explained in the last live stream how it pushed me to be better. But yeah, so overall, that was kind of my experience working with the collective. There were chats. I mean, there still are, but I just don't participate in them anymore. But there were chats that we would have as team members and stuff, and we would talk about the projects and things. We would also just talk about Thomas in general. And so that was also really fun to be a part of that group and just have the fun interaction. Because like I explained before that, I didn't really have much of a network in the community. I mostly just talked with the other community channel admins and whatnot. So yeah. All right, just one moment. Okay, so LNER94 asked, what is your favorite set you have built for the Thomas Creator Collective? So there's two sets I can think of that I like really, really enjoyed making for the collective. And one is obviously the one that's on the right over there. That's the big like new Vickerstown shed that was built. Um, I'm trying to remember. I think that Really Useful Crew was the name of the episode. The episode name got changed. Some higher ups wanted a different name on it, and so I don't actually remember what the name was. It was the construction one where eventually the shed was on fire and whatnot. But it was fun because they were like, "Hey, we got this big shed that we want built. That's like the major part of the story. We'll have you do all the exterior shots of the shed and the construction, and then like the aftermath and everything. So you can build this giant thing, put a lot of detail in it because that's all we'll have you do for this. I think it was like a 2-parter episode, maybe it was a 3-parter, I can't remember. So yeah, I was able to put a lot of detail in it, and if you've probably seen various pictures, because I've thrown a few of them in this slideshow, but it was really cool to have all the just I mean, there was a bunch of different tracks, a bunch of different buildings and things. It was just really fun to kind of put it all together. It reminded me a lot of the stuff I try and do for my own series, and so it was fun being able to do that for the collective. And yeah, that was probably my absolute favorite out of all the sets. And the other one would be I think it's probably gonna pop up in another picture sometime soon. But there's a 4-track. It kind of looks like I don't know how to explain it. It looks like a yard almost, but it's like you've got these 4 tracks, and they come around and kind of make an L shape around the set, and they have switches interconnecting them, so you can move all throughout. And so it was cool because it could be used as a mainline set, like the engine's going through, but it could also be used as a yard because there were so many lines and switches and stuff. And so that was a really fun set to do a lot of various things on because there was so much going on with that set. And I think I got to use that set for a couple different episodes. It wasn't intended for me to use that set for them, but then I got multiple scripts one after another, and I saw that oh, well, this fits because it's just a generic countryside, or oh, this fits because it's a yard. And so I threw them all together. It was really cool. I know for sure it appeared in the TCC Presents that I created, but it also appeared in the Gordon Goes Native episode. So yeah. Nathan Reviews, Yusuf the Sponge HD, and Jesse Ortiz asked, when did you first join the TCC? So I joined the Thomas Creator Collective in December of 2015. I told the story yesterday about how I was coming home from a final after failing it, actually, and that's when I got the call about potentially joining and whatnot. And so I joined before Christmas of that year, and then I filmed some stuff. I believe it was over the Christmas break, and then it first aired, I think, in January. And so I was a part of the team officially in 2015, but I don't think my stuff was actually seen publicly until 2016 and whatnot. And it was a really big opportunity for me because back then, I mean, I think I had 2,000, maybe 3,000 subscribers or so. And so to be a part of the official Thomas channel, which at the time I think had 200,000 or 300,000 subscribers, it was a pretty big deal to get my name in the credits and whatnot. So it was a really cool experience. So yeah, that's when I first joined. Okay, Bart Simpson asked, who is in charge of the TCC? That's a interesting question. There's a lot of I don't know, if you work in any company, any job, you know that unless it's a small startup or kind of a mom and pop shop type of business, that there's a lot of hierarchy with things. So there's plenty of people like there were plenty of people. I believe there were things. They would often make the approvals of obviously the budgets and the how many episodes they were going to run and whatnot. Dealing with those sort of things, they would approve the scripts as well. Actually, no, they wouldn't approve the scripts. It was someone below them who would then get the scripts on a weekly basis. And it actually wasn't until a later point in the collective that the scripts had to be so tightly approved. If you remember that Fireman Sam um, thing, controversy that happened back in I think it was 2016, where there was a religious text that had been used when it shouldn't have it in the video. Anyways, that caused a lot of drama with Mattel, and so Mattel was like, we have to check everything on all scripts and whatnot. So then there was someone there who would approve and make changes on scripts and whatnot. Then there is another. Then below them, there was obviously my direct boss, who you can find his name in the credits and whatnot. of the collective, but he was kind of the one who oversaw pretty much like the actual production of the TCC, and he like managed a lot of the stuff. And then with him, he utilized certain members of the fandom to kind of help him manage everything. Just because, I mean, when you have 30 plus people in this fandom working under you, like that's a lot to manage. And so there were specific people that were then assigned to specific tasks. Like some were specifically towards scripts, others kind of more filming, animation, and stuff. And then obviously then there were the people that were a part of the team. So that's kind of the hierarchy of it. So say like who's in charge? Well, there was a lot of people that were in charge in that. But yeah, that's pretty much the hierarchy of the TCC. And then when it came to like fans, us as team members wanting to do certain things with the stories and whatnot, there was a lot of I mean, when you have that many people above, it's kind of like hard to get something like that through all those people, especially when they have specific ideas of like, oh, what they want the collective to be. And so if it wasn't one person that was shooting down a classic Thomas idea, it was someone above them usually. And so that's kind of how like the TCC kind of became what it was. And even though I know a lot of the fandom wasn't happy with it, it really was not due to the people in the fandom that were part of the TCC like at all. I mean, those people were fighting to put as much classic Thomas that we know and love in the TCC. But as you can tell, with the direction that Thomas has gone, with the TV series, like those are the same kind of people that were approving the scripts and kind of, I mean, they kind of had this idea of what they were doing and whatnot. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, I do. I guess I can't say when like who's in charge of the TCC. There were times I am aware of. I wasn't always a part of this, but there were times where people got to work with the official team that actually produces the Thomas and Friends TV show and whatnot. And there was some communication there, and I believe that there still is. I'm not entirely sure since I'm not a part of it anymore, but they obviously to keep consistency among the brand and whatnot. And so that was a cool thing that certain people got to experience and work with. So yeah. All right, LMS Arthur asked, will there be a TCC episode that takes place at Ulfstead Castle? So I believe when this question was asked back in, this would have been December of 2016 or November, there hadn't been much that had taken place at Ulfstead Castle. I believe it was the following year, or maybe I can't remember exactly. There was stuff that took place at Ulfstead Castle. I was never a part of that stuff. I never filmed anything at Ulfstead Castle. That would have been kind of a pain for me to do because I didn't have like any castle-like set pieces or anything. I think it would be cool in the future if I actually like. Obviously, I want to focus on remaking the sets from the classic series, and then there's certain ones from CGI I'd like to also tie into my series. But eventually, it would be really cool to actually just for fun make like a set, like an Ulfstead Castle set that works with Plarail and whatnot. I think that'd be really cool. Just because it's an awesome set in the TV series, and so that would be cool to do. But I never got the chance to. Yeah, to answer the question, I believe that there was, but if there hasn't, I don't really know if there will be any more at this point. Oh, you know what? I think there definitely was because there was that Trackmaster Steven that came out like last year. And so I believe that there were some episodes that tied in using that product and whatnot. So, yeah. Okay. Dylan Flores, I hope I said that right. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, asked, why did you leave the TCC? So there were multiple reasons why I left the Thomas Creator Collective. The biggest one, like the major reason, was that I just couldn't do it anymore. Like one of my last projects, as you can see on the right, was that was the big set that I used for the Return of Diesel multi-part series, and then the Thomas and the Superstation was I think like the actual last project, but that was like a 7 or 8 part project. So that was a big one. But yeah, so the reason why I left was I previously filming for the Creator Collective. I was at school, but while I was at school, I was taking prerequisite classes to actually get into the program that I wanted to get into the business school at my university because my university's ranked like in the top 20 business schools in the United States. And so they not only you have to get accepted into the university, you have to then get accepted into the actual business school and into the specific programs. And so I've been taking prerequisite courses before while I was filming for the Creator Collective, and it was fine and whatnot. I mean, I was able to focus on my studies and whatnot, but I knew as soon as I got into the program that like I wouldn't be able to take the time to spend each day going and filming, especially when filming didn't really have a like it didn't help anymore with my career goals. Obviously, I got a lot of great experience in the collective, but there wasn't a lot of room to keep going to reach new heights and stuff. And so I needed to get more experience that fit the field that I was going into and be able to build up my resume and whatnot. So I knew combining school and like work that dealt more with my career and what I wanted to do. I just knew that there wasn't going to be time to film for the collective. And so my wife's next to me and she just said, "Oh, and you also wanted more time for me." So yes, I guess that's true as well. Uh, anyways, but yeah, so there was that that led me to also, well, that's kind of like the main driving reason. So I left like a month before I started in my program, and it was the right decision in the fact that like I've been super busy ever since. Like there's no way I could have time. I mean, I filmed enough that I was able I edited all the remakes that you're seeing now coming out on my channel. And so that's basically all I did is I had a lot of footage and whatnot, but I like if I was going to spend time working on it, it was just sitting at my computer at my apartment at my university. Like I couldn't build a set or anything and spend all that time doing that stuff. So yeah, the other main reason was that the collective was changing at the time as well, and I didn't like the direction that things were going. I mean, I talked about this a lot yesterday with like we were being forced to use Trackmaster products, like the new Trackmaster Evolution stuff, um, and we had to use Superstation Track, and there were people's unique styles, and what made it a collective was disappearing, and I wasn't a fan of that. And I mean, I already was planning on leaving. Like I had told my boss like at least 6 months in advance about what was going on. And so like it wasn't like I just left solely because of the changes. But I'm glad I got out when I did because it was just a pain to film the Superstation episodes dealing with the terrible Trackmaster 2 engines with their stuck gears, trying to film on that slope and whatnot. And it was just yeah, it was a terrible pain. And so like I'm glad that was like the last thing I worked on and I was able to leave because it from what I have seen since is that they've never been able to revert back. You know, you've never seen Plarail track ever again in a TCC episode, and so like I wouldn't have been able to use a lot of the stuff that I had and built the sets and kind of focus on the particular things that I enjoyed and kind of the my speciality in what I did. And so I think it was a good time for me to kind of peace out and leave and whatnot. A lot of the people that I've worked with initially, a lot of the people who started with the collective, most of them, I believe, have just left over time just because they couldn't um, continue to do it. Like their lives just got too busy and whatnot. Also, some of them just disagreed with the direction that things were going, and they decided to leave because of that. And so there was a lot of things. The team was definitely different by the time I was leaving. And so that was interesting to kind of see the dynamics change overall. And so I think I left at a good time. But yeah, um, I'm sure someone's going to ask, like, would you go back to the TCC? And the answer is no. Like, I mean, it was a great experience at the time, and I loved what we did at the time that it was at. But seeing how Thomas as a brand has changed so much into something that I really just don't um, I can't full heartedly endorse. Like I just don't agree with what they're doing with the series. I don't agree with what they're doing with the brand. And so the collective being a part of that, like I just couldn't. And then there's certain things in the collective as well that I just couldn't be I couldn't get on board. So even if I could film right now, I wouldn't want to be a part of the collective just because I don't agree with some of the things that are going on overall. But there's great people still working in the collective. Absolutely love them, and so I have no hard feelings towards any person that's a part of the collective, past or present, and whatnot. And so, I just wouldn't go back just for my personal reasons. I'd rather just focus on my own channel and whatnot. So yeah. Okay, so that is the first portion of the Q&A. We're gonna jump to the last section, which is toys. So a lot of people ask questions about my thoughts on specific toys or types of toys and whatnot. So we're going to cover as many of these as possible today. I don't know if we're going to get through all of them in time just because of the time constraint, because I'm only going to do this for an hour. So we'll probably pick this up tomorrow and hopefully finish it off. But yeah, so first question. Trainboy53 asked, "Are you thinking of getting the Plarail Motorized Ashima?" And my answer is no. So I have the custom Ashima from German Blue Sodor that he made back in 2016, and he did an absolutely fabulous job on that. And I mean, besides the paper face, because there wasn't a 3D face at the time, that model is so great, and it looks so much better than the actual Plarail toy itself. And so, yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with Plarail and Tomy overall with Ashima. Like, if you look here, you can see, like, I don't know. I don't understand why they couldn't paint the buffers or the coupling or put more details on the side of her boiler and whatnot. Just have her, match more of what she actually looks like in the TV series. I'm not sure why they went so lazy with her designs, and so that was pretty disappointing. That Plarail did that with her. There's other recent products that Plarail has released that I've been much more excited about, but Ashima is definitely not one of them. Trainboy53 asked, "Are you thinking of getting the Plarail Thomas and Merlin Cole Hopper set, Hurricane and Frankie, and Ringing Theo?" So I actually did buy Ringing Theo just because I thought it was a really cool looking item that they created, a cool looking toy. Pretty accurate, which is awesome. They did a great job creating him. And I only wish that they had painted the buffers and whatnot, but I thought that using characters like Philip and Theo are perfect to create ringing engines for. It's a shame that they don't come up with a motorized version as well. But I thought it was cool because Theo was very, accurate in design. And so I bought him just because I thought he looked really cool. Hurricane and Frankie, I have not purchased. I might in the future. Hurricane looks good. I wish his buffers were painted. But Frankie looks. I don't understand why they couldn't at least put coupling rods on her, like moving red side rods. I don't mind that they had her be like a car. It's not the worst idea, but I just don't understand why they didn't put some moving side rods so that way it looked more like Frankie, because it just looks kind of weird. But I thought it was really cool that they actually made all the Journey Beyond Sodor characters, considering that it's a kind of a one-off movie and those characters really haven't been seen again besides Merlin in that one episode. So I thought it was really cool that Plarail took the time to make all of them. It's kind of a shame that they didn't do that with the other specials and whatnot, but it's okay. Then when it comes to the Merlin and Thomas Cole Hopper set that you see there on the left, I'm kind of mixed on that one because um, I like the Thomas and I like the Merlin. I wish Merlin was motorized, but I kind of get what they were doing with that. It just seems kind of lazy that they just didn't put a motor inside of him. Especially you can swap out Hurricane's chassis and that way you have the red wheels and whatnot. But it's just kind of annoying that they just wouldn't put it in there to begin with. I don't like the coal hopper because of all the weird bright colors. If it looked more industrial, if you remember the coal and water tower set that Plarail had a long time ago, in the early 2000s, if it looked more like that, more industrial, like the actual Thomas then I would probably be much more excited about getting that set. So yeah, I talked with German Blue Sodor, and he purchased the set. And I just asked him if I could have the Thomas with the dirty face. So um, yeah, so I bought that from him. Um, but other than the rest of the set, I haven't. I mean, I could get Merlin, but I don't know. It's I don't know if it'd be worth it because I'm not going to use Merlin for my series, and I don't know if I'm going to really do um, like like any remakes with Journey Beyond Sodor stuff. So I just really don't see the point. I mean, he's a cool looking engine. It's just a shame that he doesn't come with a motor. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that set and whatnot. Okay, TTTE and the RWS fan 2003 and Joseph Rogers asked, "Do you collect minis?" No, I don't. I actually really don't like minis. I've talked with other people in the fandom, kind of older fans, and some of them really do like minis, and some of them don't. I'm on the side. I just really don't like minis because they're so not Thomas. Like if it was minis, but they were all like just the characters and not all the crazy funky designs and whatnot, and it was just the characters, and you had a wide variety of characters and rolling stock, and like you were able to actually like have a large assortment of characters. I'd be much more thrilled about collecting it. But since like I mean, it's the same characters just reprinted with different tacky designs and whatnot. Like I really just don't have any interest. Um, I did have some minis when I was filming for the Creator Collective that were sent to me. I had like one of those big packs because I had to use them, and I mean, just seeing them in person, like they're just I don't know. I feel like they're very cheap, poorly made products. And then on top of that, what they charge in stores for them, I think like to buy a single mini is like $1.50, if not more. And it's like, okay, this thing is well not worth that. I mean, it's so like it's just so cheaply put together. Um, yeah, especially when you compare to the other toys in the market. I'm just not a fan of minis overall. I don't see any reason to collect all the weird, funky designs. Like I love Thomas for Thomas, not because it's Thomas dressed up as SpongeBob or whatnot. And so yeah, it just doesn't interest me. I mean, but minis kind of encapsulate the whole um, kind of direction that the brand's going, and the fact that they want Thomas to be anything but Thomas, almost in the fact that you have like all these Thomas characters being basically everything else but themselves for the most part. So yeah, just not a fan of minis. I think that they're just not a very good toy line in general. I think I just think it was a very the reason why they're still on store shelves is because they're cheap to make. They upsell them significantly, so they make a good profit off of them. And then to make new ones, the new designs, it's so cheap for them because they're already going to print on them anyway. So it's really easy for them just to have a graphic designer just come up with a new design that they print on the side. Like I mean, if you look at the pictures there on the right, like I mean, it's so easy for them to take a Diesel 10 or Victor or Gordon and just literally throw something new on it because they're already going to paint him. And so yeah, I think that's kind of the main reason. I wonder if they actually really sell that well. I think kind of the main thing that has kept them in stores is just because Mattel has made such a profit off of them. But I really do not think that they're worth the price tag that you see in the store or the blind bags. Yeah, I just not a fan of them overall. So yeah. Okay. Christian LaRocca asked, "Do you have a Tomy Lady and Trackmaster Proteus? If not, will you get one?" So I do have a Tomy Lady. I think I actually might have more than one. I'm not quite sure. So I got a Tomy Lady back when Thomas the Magic Railroad was coming out, like when it was being released, and I remember how excited I was. I came home from school one day, and my dad was like, "Well, we got a package for you," and it was Diesel 10 and Lady in their Tomy, or the original Thomas Magic Railroad boxes there for me, and so I was able to add them to my Tomy collection. It was awesome, and whatnot. And so I've got the pink cars from Lady and the gold cars from Diesel 10. I think I've lost a lot of them since. I'm not quite sure. A lot of this, like if you've noticed a lot of stuff with my collection, if it wasn't something that I was immediately going to use with my series, it became like a lot of that stuff was easily lost, and so that's kind of what's happened to a lot of various items. So I did have my Tomy Lady, but I'm not sure what happened to it. I don't know if it got lost or it might be the motor broke. I know I do have a Tomy Lady now, but it's just doesn't run very well. Its motor is pretty bad, and so yeah. So I do have one. I just don't think there's much use of it. I have filmed portions of the Thomas the Magic Railroad chase scene, and so yeah, so I mean, you may see some stuff with Tomy Lady in the future, but yeah, I mean, there's not really much because I'm not a huge Magic Railroad fan, and I don't really see like how Lady can be utilized in a lot of that stuff. Same with Diesel 10, so that's kind of why I've everything in my series kind of takes place pre Magic Railroad. Anyways, then with Trackmaster Proteus, so I've never owned a Trackmaster Proteus, but I have bought one. So I actually bought one as I think it was a birthday gift for Enterprising Engine 93. Just because, I mean, if you've seen his series and you know about Proteus, I mean, Proteus has been his profile for a very long time. I thought it was a very fitting gift, and so I did give him one, like for his birthday or something. So, but yeah, I do not own one for myself. I might get myself one if I find like a good deal because they're kind of expensive on eBay. They're going for like at least $30. I don't know if it's really worth that much. Just because lately I've kind of been able, I found a couple good deals on different like hit era characters in Trackmaster form, and my thoughts before were that I was never going to buy those engines because I didn't like the series at the time. I didn't like the characters and whatnot. But now where we're at um, with the Thomas brand in general, like I actually they're good toys, like they're quality products. I mean, you look at Proteus. I mean, he is a redesign of Sir Handel, but like the quality that went into those products was significantly higher. And so I'm like, kind of my mentality's changed, and I've thought about getting more of the Trackmaster engines that I didn't have just because I appreciate how high quality the products are. So like I've got actually here at my apartment right now, I've got Hero in front of me, and I've got Bash Dash, Charlie, Flora, Hank, um, and I think a few others. They're in a box. I'm gonna put them with the rest of my engines. I'm not gonna use them at all in my series, but I figure like I might as well start collecting them before they get too expensive. And so I'll probably get Proteus at some point because I think Proteus is one of like I think I'm only missing 3 characters now. But I'll have to double check. But eventually, I hope. Yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool to actually have the entire range of characters. It's before the switch to Trackmaster Revolution, so we'll see. We might get there one day. But so I mean, eventually, I might get a Trackmaster Proteus. Okay. Thomas Trackmaster fan 12305 asked, "Do you have any wooden railway?" Um, one second. Let me grab a drink of water, and then I will answer that question. Okay, so um, in my childhood, what happened is I had a best friend who lived next door who actually had a lot of wooden railway, and so my my parents never bought me wooden railway because they said it was way too expensive and was not worth the price. And so I was always kind of envious of wooden railway when I saw like the huge variety of characters and rolling stock and sets and destinations and whatnot, compared to like what Ertl and Tomy had. And so I was kind of bummed out by that my parents would never buy a wooden railway for me. But it now down the road, I'm actually really happy that I have Tomy because I think Tomy stepped up to the plate. Well, Tomy, Trackmaster, and Plarail, because now I have pretty much all those characters for the most part. The variety of rolling stock in Tomy is well with Tomy Trackmaster is amazing. Um, and then I've been able to create my own destination. So overall, I'm pretty happy with what I have. Plus, my range is motorized, which has been really handy in filming. But anyways, so yeah, my friend he had wooden railway, and he had a pretty good amount. And then I had a lot of characters in the Ertl range, and then I had a lot of track from the Tomy range as well. I didn't have a ton of characters because at the time in the US they were only selling kind of the main 8 characters and like Birdie and Bulgy, and that was kind of it. So yeah, so whenever we wanted to play with Wooden Railway, we'd go over to his house and build a track and whatnot and play on it. And then if we wanted to play with Ertl or Tommy, we would go over to my house and play with either one. Um, so yeah, I never collected Wooden Railway, but I had plenty of exposure to it and whatnot. It's actually really fun to like look through because I remember playing with so like there's certain items I specifically remember playing with, and there's so many that like I didn't from my childhood. Um, but anyways, what would actually happen is back when you know how back in the VHS tapes for Thomas would actually come with a free Wooden Railway item with it, which was awesome. Like that was really cool and clever marketing for what they did back then. Anyways, um, I would usually when if I buy a VHS tape that did come with one of those, I would of course go give it to my friend because it's like I don't like I remember specifically like I got a wooden Toby with the Thomas Trackside Tunes VHS, and so I gave the Toby to him, which was fun because that actually helped complete his collection of some of the main characters getting Toby there, and so yeah, I would pretty much always give away any of the wooden railway engines that I ever got from the D or from the VHS and DVDs and whatnot. So yeah, I don't have any intentions on collecting Wooden Railway now. I just don't see the point in it for myself because I've got such a big collection for my own ranges. And then there's so many great people in the fandom who have collected so much. Like you've got Enterprising Engine 93, Thomas Wooden Railway, Mr. Conductor fan. Like there's a lot of really good Wooden Railway users who have such a huge collection of them, and so like it just I don't really see the need for why I would want to collect them at this point. I when I was in person visiting Enterprising Engine 93, it was really cool to see his collection and see all these wooden items that like I'd only seen pictures of through my whole life and seen in packages at the store. And so that was a cool experience to see so many of the items since he pretty much has like I think almost everything and then all the customs and whatnot. So yeah, I think Wooden Railway is a cool range, but it's just not. All right, Charles Ashworth asked, "Do you or do you not have a Plarail Emily?" So this is actually really funny because the reason why this question was asked is because there's a certain level of inconsistency in my videos that people may have noticed. So I did have a Trackmaster, or not Trackmaster, a Tomy Emily back when she came out. I remember I was in like I think fourth grade or something, and I got her. This like season 8 was just coming out at that time. Like I hadn't quite like given up on Thomas at that point. Like I was still mostly a fan of the classics. Wasn't really a fan of the new stuff, but I was still collecting the Tommy trains whenever I could. So that was like the era that I got um, Rusty, Emily, Molly. I think those were the only ones that I really got at that time. Anyways, so I did have and Spencer and Arthur. I did and Murdoch. I had Murdoch as well. But yeah, so I did have an Emily from my childhood, but I've talked about Emily as a character before, and I've mentioned specifically that I did not. I was not a fan of Emily, and there's a like I specifically did not want her to be part of my series because I wanted to focus on the classic series because of how much the new series that Hit Entertainment produced kind of rubbed me wrong as a child, and so I I did not want Emily to be a part of my series, and so even though I had a Trackmaster Emily, I don't know. I think I might have lost it. I never specifically like got rid of it or anything, but then yeah, so I think I was missing yeah, I was missing Emily for quite a while, but then when I was filming for the collective, I needed her again. And so luckily I had an old neighbor who used to have a bunch of Tommy trains for their kid. And I went back and asked them, I was like, hey, like I'm working for the actual brand, like I'm filming this stuff. Is there any way that I can borrow? And they're like, oh, you could just take it. So I got like a spare James, Emily, a couple other um, items and whatnot, which was really handy. So I've gotten use out of them. So I did have Emily again. So there's certain remakes that like you'll see earlier in my channel where like Emily has been replaced with other characters. I think you use Mavis instead and whatnot. But yeah, so I do have a Plarail Emily at this point, but yeah, I'm just not a big fan of Emily as a character, which is why there's been some inconsistency. Trainboy53 asked, favorite Thomas Plarail model? Um, so I've got to be honest, I absolutely love the new Thomas and Percy that Plarail has released this past year. You can see them there in the picture on the right. Like, I've even got them sitting literally right in front of me on my desk right now. Like, they are just stellar engines. I mean, like the designs for their bodies and like chassis and everything was already good because it's been kind of the standard, consistent design that they've used for so many years. The thing was that their faces really weren't that good, and that's something that's always bugged me ever since I've been doing my series. Like even back in season one, I was just like, oh, Thomas's face is kind of creepy. Same with Percy's. I'm not quite sure the look that they were going for. Like they were trying to obviously emulate and model the classic series faces, but it just didn't. They didn't do a great job, and it didn't translate to the toys very well. And so when I saw the re-release designs of having Thomas and Percy with these beautiful, stellar CGI faces, and I mean we've seen some terrible CGI faces on toys. Like if you look at the Trackmaster Revolution Thomas, like that's got an ugly CGI face on Thomas. So like the fact that they took what was already good and they made it better by adding these awesome, accurate, stellar faces has just been amazing. I mean, it took them almost 10 years since the switch to CGI to do it. I think part of it was that they didn't do it because I think it hasn't been up until recently that they've been actually given some of the CGI files, which is why the faces are so accurate. Because I wouldn't be surprised if they're actual like if it's straight from the file itself. Um, anyways, so yeah, I absolutely love what they've done with them. So Thomas, the new Thomas, is probably my all-time favorite Plarail model in existence right now. Initially, I didn't like the look of the windows, like the cab windows, the circular ones that you can see there, because I thought that they were too cartoony. But like once you have it in person in front of you, like it doesn't look that way at all to me. And so I just really like this new Thomas model. And so like I'm honestly bummed that they did not release it sooner because before the summer of 2017, if they had released it before then and I could have had it for filming season three, that would have been freaking awesome to have in my third season and whatnot. But what I'm probably going to just do in the end is when I finish filming season three, I'm probably going to use the CGI Thomas for like that. It's just going to become my standard Thomas, and so it's going to be kind of just mixed in, which is fine. I mean, in the classic series, Thomas had multiple smiling faces and whatnot, and so it'll just kind of be a similar thing where there'll be different ones that are utilized at different times and whatnot. So yeah, I'm excited to get use out of it. But that's definitely my favorite product. Thomas related stuff asked, have you thought about using windups slash Bandai, etc., to represent different gauges? I did consider that for a while, but the reason why I ultimately did not, well, actually, no, I should specify, I have and I haven't in some ways. So I was thinking about using the windups to represent the narrow gauge engines, but the problem is that like Plarail and Tomy has made such a stellar amount of rolling stock for the narrow gauge engines. I mean, they made every type of coach. They made the slate cars. They made the gunpowder wagons. Like, I mean, I've got everything with that. And so, as you can see in like my second season, like I try and utilize it to the best of my abilities. And the wind up Plarail range is a lot more limited on that. I mean, they tried like I mean they recolored an Annie and Clarabelle to make the three different colors of coaches and whatnot. And so like in some ways I mean I could use it, but I just really like the look of the Tomy Trackmaster ones a lot more. And so that's why the narrow gauge engines aren't wind up. However, I absolutely love the small railway engines, the Arsdale mini engines, miniature engines. They're in wind up form. It's absolutely stellar. Like, I mean, I've shared lots of pictures on social media and whatnot. You can see Bert right there on the left, and the last slide also had them as well. And they're like, I mean, they look great in pictures, but when you see them in person and like actually like they're literally as big as my pointer finger. Like they are so tiny, and the amount of detail that's put into them is just stellar. Like they're absolutely amazing. And so after when Plarail, okay, so back when when Lost Treasure was actually announced, and you could see Mike Rexenberg in the promotion stuff. I had a person on my writing team, but I didn't have a writing team back then. He was kind of just like the one guy that was helping me. Thomas and Friends 47, actually, if you guys know him. He was asking me, he's like, "Hey, are you going to add the Arsenal engines to your series now that they're going to be in the TV series and whatnot? Because I'd love to write some stories for him and whatnot." And I was kind of like, I don't know, because the Trackmaster Mike looked hideous, and so I was kind of like, not really sure if I want to. Then I considered for a while, just because I loved Lost Treasure and I loved having the small railway engines and what they like. They were just so fun, and they added so much to the story, and I thought there was so much potential with them, especially with my series. And so I started like thinking of ways that I could potentially put the small railway engines in. And so I thought about using like the take and play ones, even though they had the hideous giant magnets. But then I kind of held off on that one. But when Plarail announced, the capsule Plarail versions, I was just stunned, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely getting them. I'm definitely putting them in my series. And so then I've been, it's kind of been a process ever since, because obviously it's a whole different gauge of track, and I have quite a lot of Tomy track, and so I needed to build up my collection of track to actually be able to build sets and whatnot. Because before, I think I only had like 4 pieces of track. Anyway, so that it's taken some time to build that up. And then German Blue Sodor, who has made a lot of customs for me, he did a phenomenal job, and he made Frank and Jock for me as well. So I've got all 5 of the Smallies that appear in the Railway series, or I guess in the illustrations, because apparently there are also others. So yeah, I'm excited because I'll be able to use all 5 of those in my series. They're actually going to appear in season 4, hopefully. I just need to, get around to filming that. I'd love to remake the small railway engines book, all the stories with that, and remake the season 20 episodes. So yeah, that's the reason why I'm using the wind ups for the smaller, for the miniature railway, and not for the Skarloey railway. I've never considered using Bandai stuff. I mean, it looks great. Well, I'm using Bandai for various vehicles, but in regards to like the engines and stuff, like it just, yeah, I've never like really considered actually seriously using the Bandai engines, just because I feel like Tomy and Trackmaster has done such a great job in bringing so many engines in the wide variety that they have and whatnot. So yeah. All right. Trainboy53 asked, have you watched Diesel D199's Tomica Thomas and Friends shorts? I don't know how on earth this got included in the toy section. This should have been in like the community fandom section. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I messed up on my spreadsheet somehow, and this ended up in the wrong um, section. But I'll answer it anyway. Anyways, so the reason, or not, yeah, basically, like one of the key things that got me started on making my series is I saw the early shorts that Diesel D199 had done, and it was like, oh, that was amazing. And I realized like I got all the toys and stuff, and it's like, hey, well, if he could do that, like I could totally like create Thomas episodes and whatnot. And so, I mean, it was a huge inspiration to me. It was fun being able to talk with him over the years, and work with him. And I guess the cool thing, I mean, it's kind of funny. The question is if I've ever watched them. I mean, I'm the only person in the world who has also filmed one of his shorts. So that was pretty cool. I filmed, I think it's short 38, Incline Antics, because we decided it'd be a fun April Fool's prank to film something for each other. And since he didn't do a lot with narrow gauge, and I was actually filming season 2 at the time, it worked out perfectly, that he was able to write a script for the Slate Incline, and then he filmed an episode for me as well. And that episode is actually a season 3 episode that he filmed, and I released it. It was called Signals and Scrapes. So yes, I've definitely watched his shorts. A lot of his stuff is great inspiration to me. I love watching it from time to time just to come up with new ideas. It's fun seeing his CGI stuff, even though I can't replicate a lot of the kind of more advanced stuff that he does with it. It's cool because seeing him do it in CGI, it kind of pushes the limits, and I start like brainstorming in my mind, like, okay, like, is there a way that I can maybe do something similar with the toys? How can I improve? And so, yeah, like, I think he's done an absolutely phenomenal job with those, and so I'm always excited when he has new stuff come out. Okay, Yusuf the Sponge HD asked, "How do you get your engines?" So, I mean, obviously, back when I was a kid, the main place that I got my engines was Toys R Us. That was the main place that sold them and whatnot. Then they actually started selling them in Walmart, but it was weird because they stopped selling the 3 packs, like what I knew growing up for the most part, and they sold like kind of, well, they were smaller items. Like they sold Thomas alone for like $5, and then like a bigger engine like Gordon was $10 and whatnot. And then they had some expansion packs at Walmart. And it was cool because so I come from a small town, and so we have a Walmart, but we didn't have a Toys R Us. So it was really cool for me when like Thomas started being put on the shelves of, or well, when like Tomica World, Thomas Motor Road and Rail, I guess, started being placed on store shelves in Shopko and Walmart, because then I could literally find, like, there was places in my hometown that I could actually go see. I could go see the new items, and I could also purchase them to use and whatnot. And so that was where I got most of mine as a kid. But obviously, things have changed drastically. I mean, Trackmaster followed along it and sold their products in those same stores as well, added a variety of stuff. And but then with Trackmaster Revolution, things have definitely changed, and the selection has decreased because people aren't buying as much of those terrible products, and so the stores aren't ordering as much, and so there's not really as big of a selection. And I mean, I really wouldn't care for a selection anyway because they're not good products overall. But anyway, so nowadays, and what I've done to get most of my collection, because I mean, there's been plenty of items that just haven't been sold in the US, or they were just never sold anywhere locally that I could purchase them. But most of my engines that I have now, I either get from eBay, just kind of searching around, finding something that's at a fair price with good shipping costs, because that's kind of one of the things you always have to watch out for. And then Amazon has had stuff. For the most part, over the past few years, Amazon has had great deals where you could just buy basically any Plarail engine for about between anywhere from $18 to $22, which was really awesome. Especially when, like, I mean, the Trackmaster 3 packs are $15, and it's like, well, I mean, I can pay just a couple bucks more and I get a much higher quality item. Over the past couple months, I have noticed that Amazon's selection has significantly changed. I'm not quite sure if there's something going on, maybe internationally, or anyways, I'm hoping that changes in the future because I really liked getting my engines on it. It was really cool getting it Amazon Prime as well. Like, I remember when Plarail Edward and Henry's redesign were announced, I went on Amazon and I bought 2 of Edward and Henry each on Prime, and they showed up on my doorstep, 2 days later and whatnot. It was really cool. It's just a shame that they don't have as many products anymore. Hopefully they will in the future, but there's a lot of good sellers on eBay. I actually, really funny. So for the most part, almost every like purchase I've had on eBay has been really good. Like ordering stuff from Japan and stuff, I haven't had any problems. And so overall, I've had a really positive experience buying stuff from eBay. It's really funny though, because actually back in December, with my writing competition, we with like with my writing team, the writing competition we do, we I give that, like, there's a prize for the person who wins. Everyone votes, and then whoever the winner is, they get a prize, and they get to choose. Well, like, I set boundaries and whatnot. Well, the prize for that month was specifically a Plarail engine of their choice, and Henry NWR03. he won. He asked for a Plarail Red Rosie, and so I went and ordered one, and I thought about it, and I was like, oh, you know what, like I'm not a fan of Rosie's redesign, like in the series, but like the new Plarail Rosie is a good toy. It's a solid product that Plarail made, much better than the Ashima that they made and whatnot. And I was like, oh, you know what? I want to support them when they create good products. So I ordered one for myself. Anyways, fast forward 2 months, the package never arrived, either mine or his, because he was supposed to receive one as well. And I had to actually go and file a complaint. I got my money back and I had to order a different one and whatnot. But that's like the first time I've ever had any issue where an item on eBay never showed up. So overall, I've had a great experience on eBay. You can find a lot of great Thomas items. Most of like there's plenty of sellers in Japan who sell Plarail engines for roughly $20 to $25 on there. So you can pretty much get most of the range for a very solid price. It's not as good as if like you were living in Japan, because I think like with the exchange rate, I think you could technically buy a Plarail engine for like $16 to $18 in Japan. But oh well, I mean there's shipping costs and whatnot. And then another place that you can look to find like engines, when what I've done too is like local listing sites. There's one kind of in my area that's like that's very specific, that's really prominent. People like to, I mean, it's got its classifieds that people can post items, but people also like to buy cars and houses on that website and stuff. Anyway, so I'll check that one from time to time and see what people post, because it now that you know Hit Toys Trackmaster is about 10 years old. A lot of people who had kids and bought a lot of those items nowadays, their kids have grown up and they just don't want the items anymore. So they'll just put them up for people to come grab. And I got a stellar deal. It was probably about a year and a half ago, where I, for $300, got a huge thing of Tomy and Trackmaster toys. I mean, the value of those products combined was well over $300. I mean, it was probably getting up in like $700, $800, and so it was a stellar deal. A lot of rare items too, and I believe I shared a lot of those pictures on Twitter and other social media accounts, and it was fun because I actually got to build a lot of the sets. Like I mean, I got things like the Sodor suspension bridge that I've never had before. Anyway, so if you check those sites, local listing sites, you can often find something where people are just kind of giving away. They have no idea what the value of like each specific item is. So you can generally find some rare items for like basically dirt cheap, which is really cool. So yeah, I mean, just keep an eye out on those sites. Okay, so we have gone over an hour now. I'm going to answer one more question, and then we're going to call it a night. And then hopefully tomorrow I can continue on, and we'll just finish through these Q&As and keep going. So, okay. Stephanie Engine 101 asked, how long does it take to make the customs? So it's kind of a hard one for me to answer, because nowadays a lot of the customs that I haven't done, so I honestly don't know how long it takes. German Blue Sodor, I'm not quite sure. I mean, he's so skilled in what he does, but there's been times where like I've asked him, like I've commissioned him for a specific item, and he's done it in a short amount of time, and then sometimes it's taken a little bit longer. But also, I mean, he's got his own things that he has to do in his life and whatnot. So I'm not quite sure exactly how long it takes him for his work, but his work is stellar, so I absolutely love it. It took me a little while when I was making my custom smudger and custom D261. I mean, those are customs that I made on my own, but I really like, I don't know, I wish I kind of want to update them. I think I could make a cool smudger that actually uses like Bertram's face, and maybe get something that has a better color of green that matches more of the TV series. D261, I wish I could get some sort of face that's like the proper size and put it on there, like the square face, so it isn't that Diesel 10 paint face that's painted over. But yeah, I mean, they took a little while. I've learned, well, I learned, especially doing smudger, that like I personally got impatient while doing customs, but that's like the worst thing to do, because that's when you start getting sloppy or messing things up. And so, I mean, if you can be patient and take more time, I think it looks better. But yeah, when it comes to more simple customs, because a lot of the customs that I've done on my own is actually like repainting or redoing rolling stock stuff. Like back before I started filming season 3 in the summer of 2017, like I went on a massive like redesign spree where I basically took a ton of like weird colored rolling stock items and I painted them to look like stuff that would appear in the classic series. So like I redid a bunch of tankers. I made like the CCT vans because I got them from Fisher Price, but they were like white. I made a bunch of brake vans that had kind of the season 16 colors, where like I have like a purple and a blue brake van, which is cool because it's a way to be like colorful, like having some color, mixing some colors with the in my own series and whatnot, but not like have these bright, obnoxious colors that stand out and don't look like actually something you should see on Sodor. And then I've made I did a bunch of others too at the time. I also like redid the running boards on Duck, Bill and Ben, painted Henrietta's buffer beam red and whatnot. And those kind of customs don't take too long. I think I did all of that stuff in like a 2-3 day period. I mean, I personally prefer to use spray paint when it comes to a lot of these things because then it goes on evenly. I'm not a fan of doing it by hand because it just doesn't look as well. And I think a lot of people who do customs in the fandom, if they would just do spray paint instead, especially if it's something solid, just do spray paint. It's so much easier. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends on like what the item is specifically, or like what you're aiming for quality wise as well. I mean, if you're not as like if you don't care entirely how it looks a certain way, then I mean, obviously you can do it a lot faster. But yeah, that's kind of it. Most of my customs I just now outsource just because there's so many other people who are a lot better at it than I am. Even just recently, like I bought an extra Bandai Trevor and a Bandai Bulgy, and I commissioned Caleb Train to weather them because rather than me taking the time to learn how to weather um, them myself, because I'm just not good at all that modeling stuff, I just sent it to him and he did it and did a stellar job. So now I've got a scrap Trevor and a henhouse Bulgy, and they look absolutely phenomenal. I'm excited to get use out of them in the future and whatnot. So yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. It looks like we got like 22 people watching right at this moment, which is awesome. We've got at least another live stream. There's at least going to be 2 more. There might even be 3. So we'll see about getting through as many of these as possible throughout the week. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. It's been fun. If you do have any questions, like when it comes to like the Creator Collective or toys or any of the previous sections that we talked about behind the scenes, my series, the TV series, if there were any questions that I did not answer that you guys are wanting me to take the time to answer, put it in the comments, not in the live chat of this stream. Put it actually in the comments of the video section itself, and I'm going to go through as soon as I finish all the questions that have previously been asked. I'm going to go through the comment sections on all those on all the Q&A videos, and I'm going to compile those into another Q&A video that we'll do. So yeah, if there's anything more recent that you want me to discuss, any thoughts and opinions on the latest with Thomas, just let me know, and I'll try and get to them as soon as I can. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. It's been fun. Looks like you guys had a lot of fun in the chat as well. And yeah, I will talk to you guys hopefully tomorrow.